Hello? Hello? Looks like it's working.
I think it's good. It's good enough.
It's definitely way quieter than it normally is. So we'll see if that makes it better or worse. I have no idea. We'll find out when he publishes it if we messed it all up. Brick, sorry if I messed it up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode
65
of the Slightly Serious Sign podcast. Again, we're here at ISA, the end of day one of the show. We appreciate you guys letting us take over your booth. Well, for your own podcast, that makes sense, but we did one without you guys in this podcast. So we appreciate you guys letting us use the booth. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and what's your current role. So
Matt, I'm Matt Hertz, president of Alumanate. I started the company about 9 years ago now, so 9 years in the industry.
What'd you do before this?
Before this, I worked in finance.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm Trevor. I'm VP of Sales. I kind of joined Matt from the beginning, from the inception, and we've been selling ACM ever since. Started with architectural stuff and worked into the sign and graphics through distribution, and it's been that way ever since.
Perfect. So do you want to just give a brief history of who's Aluminate? What do you guys carry? What do you sell?
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So Aluminate, we manufacture ACM in Houston, Texas. Wide range of products, but primarily in the sign and graphics industry. So we specialize in digital print, but really we can make it all from architecture all the way down to the thin gauge flat panel application type material. So we manufacture ACM in Houston, Texas. We sell through distribution all across the US and Canada. Again, I started in I quit my job in 2015 to pursue this, and then kind of a slow build in the beginning and worked the way up from there.
So just to give you're making it in Houston, Texas, you said? So there's a lot of people making ACM in the United States currently, right?
Tons.
Yeah. We were making this joke that we attended a Midwest Sign Association show.
Okay.
And a certain competitor of ours got up there and said, all of our ACM is sourced in the Americas, is what they said. And even that was an exaggeration, a little bit, let's say.
Yeah.
That was a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting shipped to them from the Americas. It wasn't the United States, but it definitely wasn't being made there, right? And then the joke was the next three vendors that got up all said, our ACM is now being made in the States, in Texas. And then the next person got up and said, our ACM is being made in the States, in Texas. And it was a funny joke that basically all of us had.
It was our ACM hasn't floated across the pond.
Yeah. That was the joke, was theirs floats and this one doesn't float at all.
No floating here. No.
But I mean, I'm just saying that to say, like, obviously Wensco sells the product, but it's spread out pretty good across the industry. So if you're listening and you're not in, the Midwest here, but you're interested in this type of product, it's pretty widely available currently. So
yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, in terms of the thin gauge signage material, we're the only manufacturer in the U.S. currently for the signage grade solid core ACM panels. So there's a handful of architectural manufacturers that don't do anything, thinner typically than, 020 or 012, right? But in terms of signage, that's what we specialized in. And so when I made the decision to invest in the manufacturer in Houston, it was really important that, we could be competitive on price with, import products, but make it here domestically. So.
And to date this podcast, so this is April 2025, right? This isn't hey, tariffs just hit, so we opened a manufacturing plant, right? No. This has been going on for a while now.
2023 is when I decided to do the manufacturing. So brief background is in 2015. So I'm originally from Oregon, and when I was there, I became friends with a group of Chinese international students through a car club, actually. Big car enthusiasts, you know, they're driving all the fancy cars around campus. And so seeing them, and I was intrigued, and, you know, I had a sports car, but much less nicer than what they had, right? And so became buddies through school, no business, and most of them went back to China to work for their family businesses. And like I said, I worked in finance, and you know, I took some vacation time back there. And you know, one of my old college buddies, he said, "Hey, you know, my father's been running this plant in China for, you know, 15, 20 years. We haven't looked anywhere to the North American market. Do you want to start your own business? And we can, you know, tie you in and form a partnership." And so I knew nothing about the product, what it was used for, who was buying it, nothing. And so, but I always wanted to start my own business. Before that, I was doing all sorts of odds and ends on the side. And so I jumped at that, started the business, and, you know, hit the ground running, and quickly realized in Oregon, where I'm from, you know, to get a container, you have to import it. It's going up by Seattle and then trucking down to the middle of the state in Oregon and distributing out from there. And so I relocated the company to Southern California, and, you know, we started selling more for architectural purposes, and then branched out to the signage side of things. And I always knew I wanted to manufacture here in the U.S. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to try to pull that off, especially, you know, it's a single owned, wholly owned company, right? There's no Chinese investment or involvement. It's you know, separate from that standpoint. So to pull that off, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. But back in 2023, I had a decision to lease in the current warehouse I was renting. It was going to come up. And so I was like, well, do I want to renew this for another, you know, 3-5+ years and, you know, do what I've been doing? Or do I want to bring the manufacturing stateside and, you know, pull the trigger on that? And so I chose the latter. Glad I did. I mean, back in 2023, I didn't think that the trade relations between China and the U.S. were going to get any better anytime soon, right? And so I could see that there was, you know, a divide in the country, and, you know, I thought there was a need, and that people would care that, you know, for a made in America product, and want to support that, and especially if we could do it at a competitive price, right? I mean, that was essential. It was like, hey, you know, it's great to manufacture in the U.S., but if the price is 50% more than, you know, anything else, what is it really worth at that point, right? And so, you know, I crunched the numbers, ran through it, and, you know, figured out the details. And 2023 decided to buy the equipment, and I knew that manufacturing in California, that definitely wasn't going to work. So there's a lot of reasons on that. But, you know, Texas, I kept coming back to that because it's a great state for business. It's centrally located. Houston, oil and gas capital of the world, right? And so plastic resin and, you know, electricity and overhead cranes and heavy power, all those kind of things that you need to manufacture. Houston had it, right? There's so many businesses down there that are involved in some way or another with oil and gas manufacturing. So finding a place wasn't too difficult, and we relocated the headquarters there in 2023 July, and then got up and running. We've been producing for you know, a little over 12 months, and I just bought the second production line. So, you know, we're off to the races, and it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like helpful to be the right time, right place as well. Correct?
Yeah.
Like you're realizing, hey, there's a problem here with us bringing it all in from China, and it's obviously not getting any better.
Yep.
And the difference is, like, everyone else is looking at the same thing, right? Like every other ACM manufacturer was like, oh yeah, we have an issue here, right? We just talked about this 2 episodes ago, right? But everyone else's solution is like, okay, let's route it through X, Y, or Z, right? Let's route it through Vietnam or anything on that side that's like, oh, this is safer for us to say we're bringing it in from there, right? You guys were just like, no, let's just do it. Let's just make it here.
Yeah. Some people say, oh, he was lucky. He did this, he did that. We hear it all the time. And I always come back to those guys like, we're not lucky. Yeah. We looked at the market. We made a better decision than you made. Yeah. When it comes right down to it, we looked at the market. We paid attention to what's going on. We read what's going on. Yeah. We understand it. And like, we're not sitting here lucky. Oh, we're manufacturing Texas. It's not luck. It's a calculated decision. That was probably a lot of factors. I can only imagine how many factors were involved in it. And when they say, oh, it's luck, well, some of it, but some of it's like, you read the market, right? And you read what was going on, and what happened came true.
And I mean, the same thing on the luck side, where it's like, you probably didn't feel lucky when you had to spend all that money to bring the plant in. Then everyone's like, must have been a good timing. Like, my wallet didn't think so.
Well, exactly. And it's funny, before all the tariffs, came about, especially when I was getting things set up. I mean, I had several people tell me that, hey, nobody cares if it's made here in America, and I'm getting my stuff in China, and what's the reason to get it in America? And it's a lot of skepticism, believe it or not. I mean, it's it's easy to see it now, right? But 6 months ago, 8 months ago, or really before this last election, I mean, it was a different story.
Yeah, it's cool to hear the background of it, because it's cool to say, like, we're getting it here. I mean, we've run into this all the time lately with people reaching out and be like, hey, where is it coming from? And they're not asking from like they're wanting to buy American made. They're looking for like, hey, is this about to get dinged, right? Like, am I going to get a huge price increase on this product? So to be able to say like, we're getting it here in the States. So obviously the same thing we say with everything. Sourcing is a little different in terms of where the materials come from. But if you're making it here, obviously the impact of that is significantly less, because the tariff's on finished good price, right? So the raw materials are significantly cheaper than the finished product. So that's cool. So the reason we wanted to do this podcast as well is last time, and this is you guys are gonna have to refresh my memory on how this actually went down, but we were talking about our customers having an issue with an ACM panel that they weren't buying from us. And we were like, it's probably just not the right product. And you guys went through and explained like, it's because of these factors. So when you V-cut it or whatever and go to bend it, it doesn't quite work as well. And I was like, none of that made any sense to me. But if somebody who's making it probably would be like, oh, this makes perfect sense. So my question with that background story is like, what's the difference in the market between some of the ACM that are out there, right? We're running into competitors where on the spec sheet, right, that ACM sheet is identical, right? They have the same aluminum thickness. The core thickness is the same. Everything on the spec sheet, right, is going to look mostly the same if you're just looking at basics. But that's not always the same for types of aluminum and types of cores. So can you kind of explain some of the differences out there in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with ACM, the two main differences you're going to run into is one, the aluminum thickness, and then two, the core materials, what's going into the core. And that's where you're going to see such a wide array of different ACM panels, right? If it's sitting on the table and it's 3 millimeters and it's white, matte white, and you have 3 different samples, you might not be able to spot the difference. But, if you pull back the aluminum and see what the thickness of the aluminum is, or if you take the panel and you bend it a few times and see how the core holds up, that's what it really boils down to. And, it's important with pricing, right? And a lot of the times, sign shops, they might not know, hey, I'm getting a 3 millimeter white ACM panel, and why is this one more expensive than this one, right? And so that's what they're not really seeing. And sometimes with the advertising out there, sometimes the skin thickness isn't listed. Sometimes it's in millimeters, sometimes it's in inches, right? It's all over the place. And so understanding and knowing what skin thickness that you're ordering, you're using, you're fabricating, huge difference, right? The standard grade, I still say standard grade, but the market's been trending down in skins, right? But standard would be 0.008 inch aluminum skin. And so something like that, it's a versatile panel, right? You can still lightly fabricate it, it holds its shape, sturdy, rigid, but the difference between that and say, a 3 millimeter panel with an 0.004 inch skin, still is matte white, still 3 millimeter, it looks the same, but it's half the amount of aluminum, right? And so that's where sometimes, we'll have customers saying, hey, I went into this sign shop and they said they're getting it for XYZ price. And we're like, well, send us a sample. Let's see what kind of aluminum skin you're getting. we'll take it to our lab and we'll pull it apart and see exactly what it is. And so we'll run into an instance where we're selling our customer, 008, and then we measure it in the lab, and the customer is getting 004 from a different supplier, and we'll say, well, it's half the amount of aluminum, right? I like to tell people, if somebody cut your paycheck in half, if your employer cut your paycheck in half, you'd probably notice it. Same thing with the aluminum thickness. If it's 50% less aluminum, you're going to notice, right? Both in the pricing, but also in the quality of the panel as well. And so aluminum is major, and then the core is the other part. So pretty much anything coming out of Asia, which the vast majority of it is going to have a high level of fillers, different types of additives. EVA plastic is, a big one. We've seen everything from, charcoal to walnut powder, just crazy stuff that you wouldn't even believe. But, again, that's a big component of it. So the core is going to, how does it hold its shape? How rigid is it? Does it snap? Can you V-groove route it and fold it? All those kind of things are, an important part. And so the core and the aluminum, really. Anything I'm missing?
No, it just depends on what the end user's doing. You can, if you're just doing a flat panel application, why does it matter? Why does it matter if you're getting white double-sided, if you're only using it one side? Some people are V-groove routing and folding, and that's where you guys stock the 012. So you need that to make sure that the aluminum on the core doesn't break. You need to have and leave enough core in there, and you need to have a high quality enough core so that when you make that bend, it's not going to snap.
Yeah, we ran into a lot of customers complaining about V-groove cutting it and it would snap, and it just came down to, are you using the right product for that, right?
Correct.
The thinner that skin is, the less likely it's going to be able to bend and not completely crack in half, right?
Exactly.
So it just comes down to using the right product. But going back to V-grooving, so I think you may correct me on this one, to be honest with you. But for the most part, we're buying a very similar core across all different types of the product that we're buying, but that isn't standard versus competitors in the market. So can you explain kind of how the core that we are offering in our product is different from some of the other options in the market?
Yeah. So our core, in the U.S., there's an abundance of high quality LDPE and LLDPE, right? And so compared to import products, which again, most everything on the market, right, is an import product. Depending on the country of origin it's coming from, is going to vary in the plastic quality. So for example, with China, they stopped accepting the world's trash several years ago. So for them, to get a high quality LDPE without having to import plastic from Malaysia or Thailand or Vietnam, it can be a challenge. And so it's all kind of a blend of the plastics coming together, where what we're using in Houston, it's pure LDPE, high quality, no fillers, no additives, nothing in it. And that's really what translates into, the routability of the panel, right? The ease of fabrication, not having the panel burr out when you're cutting it, being able to run your CNC significantly faster. All those things come back to the core material. And so looks like the show's ended.
We made it to the end.
So
you guys can hear that. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I just want to take a minute to talk about Nakusa, the name behind our tape. Our tape's the #1 application tape out there, but they are more than just tape now. Nakusa has a full range of products out there. Their new one is called NextBond. This is a UV cured adhesive. Why does that matter? It's an eco-friendly and durable option, but comparable to most of the eco-friendly options, this is a cost-effective product. So if you're looking for an eco-friendly product or a durable product or just in general a good vinyl, NextBond is going to be the one for you. This is available at Wensco.com as well as all of their other products. So check it out at Wensco or reach out if you have any questions. Oh, and don't forget to use your Nakusa bucks. Have you heard about Metamark? Metamark is a company that sells premium graphic solutions for commercial and fleet signage. So whether that's walls, or it's vehicles, or it's tables, or doors, we loved it so much we put it all over the podcast studio. So you can check it out on our videos or at Wensco.com. Can you explain you said LDPE, I think?
LDPE, yeah.
What exactly is that?
low density polyethylene.
Okay. So the type of plastic, basically.
It's the type of plastic. That's right. Yeah. So we have, a great source here in the U.S. And, really when it came down to how competitively can we produce the product? Well, I mean, plastic, it's 70% of the panel, right? And so that is a very important component. And so when I was going down that rabbit hole of, can we manufacture here? Can we do it for a reasonable price? Well, first place to start is the plastic. Do we have access to that? And it certainly, checked off the box. And so really the quality of the plastic that we're using is fantastic. And, it's reasonably priced enough for us to be able to, extrude it, and make ACM with it and still be priced competitively. So really just the quality of the plastic, because again, depending on the manufacturer, there's no one mold that fits all, right? Like I've visited dozens and dozens of factories, all over Asia, Middle East, India, different places. And each one is going to have their own prescription, so to speak, of plastics. And depending on, the type of panel that they're making, that's where it's going to vary, right?
So you talked about the imports are often, they don't have a concrete or let's say stable source for it. So what'll happen is, from what we've seen at least, is you're going to get a different core from batch to batch, right? It's not going to be consistent from side to side. And for some of you, you'd be like, what difference does it make? It's, it's 3 mil when I get to it. But they're doing announcements again. Where we've run into this is when you're routing the ACM panel, you'll end up with totally different results from batch to batch. And to make that worse, you'll run into a situation where the speed that worked perfect before, you're going to run one batch and the whole bit's gone by the time you get to the end. And it comes down to either inconsistent or poor quality or something in there that just isn't agreeing with the bits. Is that something you guys run into frequently that you're selling against in terms of cut quality or bits getting run through frequently or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, with the U.S. made product, I mean, really, in terms of the fabrication side of things, that's where it sells itself more. Being able to go into, a fabrication shop, print shop that has CNC capabilities and say, okay, I know your operator, you're using this day in and day out. Well, maybe you get, 5 4x8 sheets per bit, with your current material. Here's, a skid of ours, give it a try and see how many sheets you can get, and so that's where it really speaks for itself in terms of the fabrication and ease. And so really it goes back to the plastic, quality. Could talk a little bit about just the bond strength as well in terms of the glue that we use. It's a thicker glue than what you'll typically see out of import products as well. And so that helps with the bond integrity of the panel. So again, coming back to, burring when you're CNC routing, different things like that, the bond strength is important, certainly.
We talk a lot about quality when we're talking about ACM. Everybody talks about price, right? Oh, can we drive it down to nothing? Like, oh, I can get it at $33. I get it at 35. I get it at 43. And we're like, it's not the same. We literally look at them like, it's not the same. Like, here's where ours is. And I think you guys know, I don't like the 004 stuff. I don't even like really the 006. Like when we're talking about a 5x10, you do a 5x10 and a 006. When you pick it up, you've bent it and it's staying there.
Yeah.
Like, and people are like, oh, well, I can get it at $63 a sheet or whatever the number might be. And like, well, go ahead because your sheet's going to look wavy. If you're putting a American flag up there that looks wavy, then fine. But like, if you're trying to put something that's flat, it's not going to be flat. And and then we usually win those customers back. Like, hey, our sheets just like, I just won't go that thin. Like I don't, and all our colors are 012. I believe all our colors are 012 because like with the exception of black, because that one gets competitive. But yeah, same thing. Like I just have the higher grade. Yeah. And we'll fight you. If you want to fight on a price, go ahead and fight on a price. But we know ours is better quality. And what are you selling that sign for? You're selling that sign for $800, $900, $1,000, and you're worried about the $4 difference when you know that skin's twice as thick. So
and you'll see it too, like on like even we'll see it in like a comparison between some of our thinner and the thicker skin, like how easily especially if you go any less than we already are. Like we've seen some of, like you were talking about 004, but even 006, how easy that stuff can get dented and dinged because it's so thin. Like the tiniest rock on the road is going to hit your sign. And that may not seem like a big deal, but when the sun hits it, you can see the ripples in a sheet that's been dinged enough times. And like with a thicker sheet, it's so much less likely. It's going to take a much bigger rock to do that. But on some of the small stuff, it's so easy to just ding them. Even us, like loading any of the smaller stuff, it's not a good idea. And all of our competitors doing the same thing, right? So you're thinking like all these people must be getting sheets that are, how they're loading them without bending them doesn't even make sense to me in the first place. But
it's always fun to walk in like, hey, I see this certain brand metal. Like, did you guys buy these from the damage bin? Because they're all U'd. But the guy carried them in just the same way we would carry them in. But it's their 006 or whatever they think their thickness, whatever their stat sheet says that day.
So it says the one that says light on the end of it.
So it's like but we dealt with that in the very beginning when we were first getting all this ACM. Like we kept, it was a race to the bottom right away, and I just refused to do it because we have to be able to carry it in. If we can't carry it in and it not be U'd once we carry it in, then I didn't want it. It wasn't worth all those phone calls. Like I'll lose the people that really want to be cheap. The cheap customers that like, I don't care how thick it is, I just want the cheapest stuff. Okay, you buy from them because I'm not going to sell you the cheap stuff. Like those are people like, do you buy all your clothes at Walmart too? Like they got designer jeans on, but they want the cheapest panel possible. Like
they're pulling up. Well, you were talking about earlier. They're pulling up in their super nice car, and then they're like, I need the cheapest one you can get. Be like, that's something.
Tinfoil at that point.
Something's not making any sense here, right?
Does your car have roll down windows and no power locks? Like, did you buy the cheapest car possible?
Hey, if you get into a certain market, those are more expensive cars, so it could be roll up windows, so going back to a good example was the routing, right? You run into people that are routing and they're running through a bit every 2 panels, right? Because they're using a cheap material. It's just destroying the bits completely. What other issues do you, or both of you guys, run into out selling the product that are issues that are just you're using the wrong ACM for the job?
Sure. I think a lot of what it comes down to is going to always be that core material. A lot of stuff that we see that's imported, the core is like a shark skin. It's kind of airy on the top. The glue that's used to laminate the core to the actual aluminum is specifically designed for LDPE to aluminum. So if you're mixing in all these other plastics, fillers, additives, things like that, when you laminate that aluminum to it, the bond is not nearly as good. So the bond strength of the core, when you're routing, the aluminum's almost shifting or vibrating as they're routing. So that's why you're getting a lot of vibration and you're getting a lot of stuff on the edges of the aluminum. So it's not going to cut good. So with the high quality LDPE, some of the stuff that you're seeing in 004 and 005, where you can kind of see like the texture in it, like it's almost like a wall texture, right? So with the high quality LDPE, you're not getting that same surface texture. You're getting a nice, smooth, flat sheet. And so with the high quality LDPE, you're able to run significantly faster. So you can go to your CNC and you can rip it 10 times quicker,
Yeah, makes sense. The other question that comes up, we talked about briefly at the beginning, you talked about digitally printable sheets. We do run into issues occasionally where someone will be flatbed printing and we'll put their sheet on there and it won't work, and that'll be their time to reach out to us and we're like, hey, do you have a sheet? We're printing on this and it's not working. What makes the difference between a digitally printable ACM panel and then just a standard ACM panel?
That's a good point as well, in terms of just going back to, hey, I'm buying a 3mm white ACM, or if I'm shopping multiple different sources, right? You have to be careful with exactly, what you're getting. Is it, optimized for, direct print? Is it, can it work with latex, right? Those are the questions. So really it comes down to the paint. So the paint is, the driving formula on whether it's going to be good for direct print or not. And I know that there's some brands out there that, they're advertising the direct print and, this is DP and specifically DP. And I mean, really, if it's a 3mm signage white panel, it should be DP. There's nothing above and beyond, right? Besides the actual paint that you're getting. And so, it's a wax-free polyester paint is, most commonly used for direct print applications. And, there's different formulations, quality of paint suppliers that can be used. Are you using, PPG and Becker's, or are you using, some house brand that you're not really sure, and it works with some, UV printers and it doesn't work with others, right? And so maybe it works with UV, but it doesn't work with latex. And so those type of things, I would err to the side of caution for, end users out there to really understand what they're getting. Our panel, for example, we've specifically formulated and make sure, hey, it works great with UV. We've partnered with several flatbed printers. We've done testing across all of them. Same thing with latex, right? We, are HP certified, went through that program. And so again, understanding what you're getting on your panel. Is it going to work with your printer? Maybe it works on some, maybe it doesn't work on others. And that goes back to the paint that's being used.
Yeah, some of that was even probably before your time in the industry, because there used to be ACM and then there was digital print ACM, and it was a little different sheet. It basically went through, I don't know if it was a cleaning process, but it was a little different paint, because old school UV didn't print on everything like it does now. And they're still using the same scare tactic. Like, oh, now it's digital print. No, it's all digital print. Like, ours doesn't say it, but yes, you can print on it. Print theirs, print ours. Like, I'll give you a sheet, print it. But that's old school, because it used to be that way back when UV first started coming out, and you had to have a separate, like, we had a SKU for digital print, and it was considerably more expensive. Like, not as much as dye bond, but it was considerably more expensive. Can I say that, I guess? I just
you can
did.
say whatever you want.
I just did. But there was time, back my beginning days, the only ACM panel we had was dye bond.
Yeah.
And in the 4x10s, you could get a 4x8 3 mil, and you could get a 4x10 that was black on one side, white on the other. And their colors were red on one side, yellow on the other, green on one side, blue on the other. And I think that was it.
Yeah, it was not very many.
That was the only choices you had. And then when they started bringing it from China, all of a sudden it was half the price.
Yeah.
And they were obviously getting theirs from China too, right? Like they weren't making it here, but
E-panel.
But that was, and then everybody played in the market with that. But that was a wild time, a little before your time, where everybody was kind of sorting out what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I bring it up too because something we're going to run into in the next few months here for sure is these companies that have been importing them from China currently. So the first thing that we talked about already that they're probably going to end up doing is just rerouting it, right? And hoping that nobody catches them, basically, is their goal. Which
works until it doesn't.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
Dinged.
And there are some big companies out there, I won't say names, that, hey, I've put it out there and said, look, it's not being made where you think it's being made, and, good luck until,
Yeah. And we talked about it. We talked about it 2 episodes ago on the tariffs episode. We talked about how right now we're running into companies that we knew was coming from China, right? And now we're like, oh, is your price going up? And they're like, oh, no, we got it figured out. And we're like, no, we're not bringing it in, because at some point it's going to change, right? Either you're going to hold that pricing for us until you eventually just give us the new pricing.
They're not smarter than the U.S. government.
No.
That's
why if you saw the tariffs and China got one, and then Vietnam got one 4 days later, it's because everyone immediately rerouted it, and then they're like, hey, we can see this. You know? So the next thing I think we're going to end up running into is some of these cheaper products out in the market are just going to switch plants entirely and not tell anybody. They're just going to bring in basically a completely different product under the same name that you had before and not tell anybody that it happened. Yep. And they're just going to hope nobody notices. So I bring up that printable thing to say, if you're using one that's been working for a while and it's one of those, the cheaper ones, and it's coming in that way, you may start noticing that type of stuff, right? Where it's a cheaper product again, coming from a totally different country, totally different formulation. It's not going to print the same. The white points, if you're lucky, will be the same, but probably aren't even going to be the same. And the core is not going to be the same. So it's just something to look for, especially if these tariffs continue on as they are now. And if more countries start getting involved, I think you're just going to see these ACMs that are under the same name, but are a totally different product than they were a few months before. And people are going to be like, hey, is anyone else having issues with X brand all of a sudden? And be like, yeah, it doesn't seem the same. Be like, yeah, it probably isn't even the same product. It's probably totally different. So just something to be aware of. It's going to be a weird few months here. Like I said, dating this April of 2025 with all the tariffs going on. It's just going to be an interesting time. But if you're looking for a product that isn't going to change much because it's being made here, that's kind of why we had you guys come on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, they're shutting us down here. I would love to keep going. I only asked, I think, about 3 of my 11 questions I wrote down.
Yeah, we're 35 minutes in.
We got plenty of time if we want to do this again later. But I'll end with this. It's what we've been talking about the whole time, but it's just a good question to go out on. So what do you think sets Alumanate apart from its competitors in the market?
I think just the biggest one is kind of the more obvious one is just the product, right? Being made right here, in the United States, using high quality raw material components going into it. It makes the world of difference. It really does. And, like you said, if it's a few bucks here and there, I mean, really with the tariffs now, the pricing is getting even more competitive. Yeah. But back in 2023, I wasn't hedging this decision on tariffs. It was, hey, tariffs or not, we have to be competitive. We have to make a great product here in the U.S. And so being able to bring the manufacturing to Houston, Texas, where we are manufacturing, is something that I'm really proud about, and I know that the product is fantastic. So I would say the product really sets us apart from the competition.
Yeah, when did we start? I remember I came out and saw you.
Yeah,
remember?
That
we were in California. Remember when that was?
Yeah, that was right after a certain acquisition in the market. Yeah, so that was 2022. It was probably August, September of 2022. I remember you brought your wife out. You guys were doing a little bit of a road trip out there. So I remember
there's a good TikTok because I looked at her and said, hey, this is the most important part. This is our most important meeting on this whole trip. Did you prepare it all? And she's like, she's like, no. I'm like, you didn't even prepare for this meeting. It's the most important one on the trip. And she's just sitting there smiling. But yeah,
2022.
I think it was Dave Fisher gave me your name. Was that right? Were you doing stuff with regional or
spandex? That's right.
And that's right. I called like soon as we found out like, hey, Grimco's buying multi-panel. I'm like, nope, we ain't using them. We aren't putting another container in. Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, we got to find somebody and so obviously we have a lot of contacts. I said, I'm going. Like I literally got on a plane. I think the next week.
Yeah,
maybe it was
quick. It was quick.
Like we'll do it now.
Yeah.
And walked in and met you and.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. I mean, that just goes to, we've talked about this on the podcast probably a dozen times, right? But when we bring a product in, we're not just be like, oh, you guys got a product? Sweet. Yeah. Just send us a few skids. We'll put it on we'll start selling it. We're going to go through a process right before we bring it in. So when we signed up you guys, right, when there's obviously other options in the market, it's because we went through the process to be like, yeah, this is the best fit for us, and working with you guys it's been great. So the only thing I wanted to add to the end of what you just said about even if it's a couple bucks more, at least currently, we've been talking about how much better this product is manufactured compared to some of the competitors in the market. That doesn't make this product ridiculously more expensive than the other options. That's something I feel like we've been talking about how nice this product is. It's right there. Right now, it is right on the money. Yeah. When we just had a quote with a competitor in the market, and bid it out, and we were right on pace with them. And I think for what they get compared to the alternative option, it's not even close. No. So if you can get close on it, which we will be. So if you're buying the other one, we'd love to talk. I think it's a much better product. It's a much more stable product, and we never have any issues with it, right? Like, I mean, that's not the case with most stuff we bring in, and we wouldn't keep it if we had issues with it. But I recall one time when we brought you guys on originally, someone had an issue V-grooving it, and it was just, you literally sent me, hey, use these settings on your router, and then I never heard from them again. Yeah. That was literally the end of the conversation. Since then, I can't remember a single person that's reached out and been like, yeah, I think we had a bubble in one of the sheets, which was totally random. This is, again, right when we brought them on. Yeah. 2 issues the entire time that we've had you on that I've ever heard about. I've never seen a sheet that we didn't damage in our damage bin, right? Like, they don't just have issues. So great product. Price is great. We never have any issues with it. So we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, good.
Do you want to say where you can all get it from? You can use our competitors too. Like,
where we can get them from.
Where they get the America Core from, besides Wensco. I mean, Wensco's your first choice. Yeah. But there's other choices.
Yeah. To lead with this, if you're in anywhere outside the Midwest, we're not shipping you a 4x8 sheet. I mean, we'll ship you skids. If you want to buy some skids, but if you want to buy one sheet, I'm not going to ship you.
Yeah, we're not shipping it outside our area.
Unless you want to pay. It's going to be more than the price of the sheet to ship it to you. So, but if you want to mention everyone else, that'd be
Montroy is a recent partner. You can get it from Montroy.
It's about time, guys.
What took them so long?
I know. Yeah,
we harassed them for like at least a year.
Did you?
Probably longer than that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, maybe the tariffs pushed him over.
Nick's pretty slow. He's not the brightest person. So like, I mean, I understand.
He might make it to the end of this, and then I'll get to hear about it. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. He was just texting me during the podcast, so he deserves a call up.
Okay.
Guys, before we leave today, I just wanted to ask you one quick question, and that is, what is a pirate's favorite application tape? R tape. R tape is the #1 application tape in the United States, and it comes with an RLA, which is a release liner adhesion, meaning it's going to stick to the liner. Even on cut graphics, if you roll it, it's not going to tunnel, wrinkle, or curl, or anything like that. So if you're looking for the best application tape for cut graphics out there, R tape RLA is for you, and you can get it at Wensco.com.
I can list some more if you want.
List them. You can list them.
So Montroy is a good one. Sun Supply is another one. Let's see, Resupply is one. It's spread out all over depending on where you're at. You could always reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty much covered, at least from what I've seen.
We have
things, so
great coverage, U.S., Canada. So anybody have any questions, reach out. We're always happy to help.
Well, perfect. Well, thanks guys for coming on. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully the audio wasn't too terrible besides the few interruptions. It's way quieter now, but I could hear something behind me the entire time. I have no idea what it was, but I kept hearing them turn it on and off. So apologize. Maybe you don't hear it. Maybe it won't pick up. I have no idea. But thanks for listening, guys. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Bye.